So earlier I was talking about how like the comic book stores were just like, you don't really want to do this. It was not as welcoming.
Yeah.
As soon as I made a comic and talked to other people in the comic book community, like even before I made a comic, they were so friendly. They were like, "Hey, this is what you need to do. This is what
Hmm.
happens." Like they were actually giving me advice. The only time people get annoyed and frustrated is when they give you advice and then you continually don't do it and say, "I don't understand what's going on."
Honestly, yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
100% get it, but it's just, like everyone's been so helpful and welcoming. That was the other thing. I saw at C2E2 a lot of people that I knew before at other conventions. And there's one person, their name is Fend, Fend.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to them because they have an awesome convention setup. Like it's very noticeable. They kind of have like a little drape, they have a candy
Cool.
machine.
Oh, rad.
Um, they're a big fan of Waffle House. And so what they did is all their inventory, they give a menu out to people with all their inventory, but it looks like a Waffle House menu.
That's sick.
And I'm like,
That's super
that's
cool.
genius, right? That is something unique. That is cool. And I was talking to them for about 15 minutes. I was just like, I want to make my table stand out at other shows. Cause as a writer, I'm not going to make as much money as somebody who's doing commissions or
Mhm.
selling prints and stuff like that. I want to sell books,
Yeah.
but I want it to be a welcoming spot. I can't just like have my books laying flat on there. So I kind of raise them up. I'm trying to figure things out. And they gave me so many good tips. They're like, hey, what if you did that? We bounce just ideas back and forth with each other. And it was so cool. And they even says like, I'm a graphic design artist who's making comics. I was like, that's so, I
So
love that.
awesome. Yeah. It's the
It's
coolest thing to
amazing.
hear.
Yeah. And it's just fun picking people's brains, seeing like, okay, what's working for you? What doesn't work for you? What would work for me? What wouldn't work for me? Things like that. Like
I
I
mean,
can't do
picking up
a
one new
background.
thing is awesome. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like picking up one thing from everyone is just like, oh, now
Yeah.
I'm like an arsenal full of goodness, you know? And it's not
Hmm.
copying or ripping from them. It's just like, man, that was cool. That could work in me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna just like when you're influenced by an artist or writer that you admire, it's like you're just picking little nitpick stuff and nobody's gonna
Yeah.
notice what you're nitpicking except for yourself.
Exactly. There's people who like read We Call Them Myths already, and they were like, I really like what you did with the letter. Like there are maybe two curse words in the comic, but they're
Yeah.
scratched out.
Yeah. I
And
noticed that. Yeah.
that was on purpose. And I stole that idea from a book called Metal Shark Bro. And I actually got to talk to the letterer at C2E2. He's like, I
Oh,
really like that.
rad.
It actually makes me think about my idea here. I was like, I'm gonna be honest. I saw that a long time ago, wanted to do something similar. So I stole that idea from you.
Thank you.
Did you really? That's awesome. That's so great. It worked out so well.
It's kind of a compliment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people who don't like think that like, oh, you're stealing my ideas and you're copying my
Yeah.
style and you're mimicking me. Like, nah. It's like take it as a compliment because if
Yeah.
someone's pulling from you, that means you've done something so cool that
Hmm.
you've been inspiring someone else to try that as well. And that's what we
Yeah.
want. You know what I mean? Like you want to inspire, you want to give other people ideas so that they can try to pull it off themselves.
Exactly.
And again, you're doing your own twist on it. And even I think it's even slanted and everything. Like on the
Yeah.
page, it looks like it stands out really well, but it doesn't
Mhm.
like distract you from anything. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's it's well placed in that manner.
I think that was the other thing. Like I saw theirs and it's very much like just a block. Like they
Hmm.
were marked out like it was taped over. I
Yeah,
was like, that's cool. I want to do a scratch off thing. Like somebody's like looking over documents and just
yeah,
and
exactly.
that was the idea from it. So it wasn't like fully blatantly like ripping someone off, but it was definitely like I'm taking inspiration from you.
Hmm.
This is something that I want to do that actually makes sense with the story. And he thought it was awesome. He didn't think I was like, oh, you're just ripping me off. You're just doing what I'm doing because it's different enough.
Yeah,
Like it was just something like, oh, I took inspiration from you. It's like, oh, thank you. That's so awesome.
yeah. I love
So I
that.
love it. This community is so full of so many great people, so many awesome people who love sharing ideas. And it's the people who are like, I'm gonna keep this idea close to me that I'm like, I don't really want to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's sharing it. I mean, how is someone supposed to grow in art if someone else hasn't shared how they do their art to get them to
yeah,
understand? Because you never know. I mean, I've it's like what you were saying about like going and making your first comic, how many times have we heard just go make a comic? Or how many times have
Yeah.
you heard you got to write every day, or you got to draw
Yeah.
every day, or you got to start with cylinders and squares and cubes and then go for it? Sometimes you can hear that all the time, but then it
Yeah.
takes the one person to say that same exact thing. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know
how?
what I don't know what clicked in my brain, but it's always that. Every time I tell people that, I'm like, you just got to make a comic. It's always usually the same reaction. You're like, yeah, well, it's like, I understand. It's way easier said than done. I think that's
Mhm.
exactly what they said. I was like, it's 100% easier said than done.
Yeah.
That's why not everyone can do it. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to do it, but not everyone can do it. And once you know how to make a comic, it's easier. It's not easy, but it is
Yeah.
easier because you know
Yeah.
what you can do, you know what you did wrong, things like that. And I was just like, that makes sense. That it just finally clicked in my head for that. And I was like, I'm done waiting around for it. And I just
And
want to do my stuff.
you're totally right, because every time I write a story or I start working on an issue or start doing an anthology, it's still super hard. It
Yeah.
is
Oh,
so
absolutely.
hard. It is like the most daunting thing. Or even starting a drawing. We just did our second episode at the time of recording this. We just did the second episode of Spilled Ink, and
Yeah.
just approaching the drawing, I was just like terrified last night because I wasn't sure what to do or how to start. But like I've
Mhm.
done it before. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's always I know how to do it and finish it and get it done with, but it's always super hard. But
Yeah.
it gets easier every time. For some
Yeah.
reason, it's as difficult as these things are, it does get more simple because like from doing the punk anthology and then helping with
Mhm.
Cybersync and Shadow and like I'm helping with Jade Lauder's like horror show anthology and stuff like that. Like, it's the thing about like teaching. You just keep on saying it out loud and repeating the process. You
Mhm.
start to like really get it engraved and it just comes out easier and it feels accomplishable after a while, you know?
That's the thing. I think you said it perfectly. Once you finally do it, you're like, oh, it is possible. I
Hmm.
know I have to go through so much work to get there, but once you actually see you can do it, it's a lot more doable.
Hmm.
Because that's the other thing. I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if I'm actually able to do that. I'm like, there's only one way to find out. And it's okay to step away from something and then try it a different way. I think that's the
Yeah.
other thing people forget. They just want to keep doing this one thing.
Yeah.
Like whether it's just the same comics or like, this is the comic, this is what's going to help me out. It's like, if you want to, that's cool. But if you see it's not working, like comics are a business, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Like there's an artistic part of it. But when businesses aren't working, you pivot and do something else.
Yep. Yep.
Like when a comic's not working, you try out something else.
Hmm.
There's it's a reality that I think a lot of people need to kind of wrap their head around to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So,
And even
and
when
it's
breaking into comics, like it's
mhm,
not the same for everybody. The first issue
exactly.
isn't produced the same by dude. And Punk Anthology was my first comic,
Yeah,
and
and I had no idea though, but it seemed so cool.
thank you.
Like it was such
And
a really well thing done. I love the poster, like the promotion behind everything. It was just awesome all the way around.
thank you. I super appreciate that. Thank you so much. And it just felt
Yeah.
like the scariest, hardest thing in the universe,
Hmm.
But it's like I had tried for years before that to make a comic. Like,
Yeah.
Teenage Babylon. Actually, I have the ash can right up here. It's the first like 12 pages of like it's a zero issue to kind of lead you into the series.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, I have artwork from someone who's tried to do this book before. I'm have another story called the Broadcast Dialogues I've been working on for like 5 years. It just never
Yeah.
came to fruition, and I have sketches and concept art from other artists before, but it wasn't until I met Christian or I met Jeremy that all this stuff was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
possible. It can work. Like it takes a really long time to figure it out and to figure
It
out
does.
what's good or bad. And sometimes you just need to grow and meet people and you just haven't met the right person yet to make some of these
Yeah.
things come true.
I think everyone has stories that they're like, I want to make. I can't make it yet.
Hmm.
Like there's one I've been working on for like I definitely have a notebook full of other ideas that are like, I would like to work on that, but it's just been on the back burner because I haven't found the right opportunity. I didn't really find the right people that I wanted to work with on those. But like one of them that I was working on since like, I think like a year and a half ago. Like I came up with the title before I came up with the story, and it's just Heather Hates Hell.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was right. Like
Yeah,
the
that's super
title was
cool,
like,
yeah.
oh, that's awesome. But I've been sitting on that. I wrote out outlines. I didn't really like it. I kept writing it. And now it's just like, for right now, it's on the back burner. It's not something I'm giving up on. It's just, I can't do anything with it right now.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I have
that's
to
a good
figure out
thing to
something
know
else.
too.
Yeah.
It's just like, this has just got to sit. I gotta let I'm
Mhm.
not ready for this. Like, I'm either not ready to write this, I don't have the
Yeah.
story, inspiration that's hit me to make it click yet, or I just haven't
Mhm.
met the right artist to help inspire me to do it.
Yeah.
Broadcast dialogues is the same way. Like, I knew for one, I wasn't a smart enough writer when I first had the idea. And I was
Yeah.
like, I love this. I'm gonna try to pull it off one day. I'm just not there yet. And then
Yeah.
I just never came across an artist that I felt was like at a caliber enough for what I was envisioning for this book. And
Yeah.
it took me literally years until I came across Jeremy, who, offered to want to like work together and partner on something. And I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I kind of have this random thing, give it a shot. And then it was just like, man, this is now it's opening up gateways and doors. And, his contribution has
Yeah.
like elevated it to a different degree. And now I'm like, I have 1,000 ideas, but like, man, and it sucks because I'm at a point with these other books where I'm like, I can't dive into that yet. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
distract me. I'm going to be pulled into it. I got to wrap up all this stuff. So now it's inspired me to wrap up projects to get to that project.
With Comix will spread.